On this episode of the podcast, I have with me Sagar Anand. He is the Senior Engineering Manager at Twin Health. We're going to be covering a topic we've touched on in the past, covering balancing team velocity and quality. We're going to talk a little bit more about the quality and how that conversation flows. Sagar's got a great background, has seen different industries, and brings a wealth of experience to each stop he's gone. And we're going to be touching a little bit about how culture and hypergrowth are impacted by some of these things along the way. Sagar, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Amir.
Absolutely, man. So two things I like to start off with. One is to figure out, what does Twin Health do at a high level? And also, as a senior engineering manager, what are your responsibilities? What falls on your plate?
Sure. Twin Health invented the whole body digital twin to help reverse, improve, prevent chronic metabolic diseases. So we collect hundreds of biomarkers, using sensors, self-logging, member labs, and then our platform uses it to provide personalized treatment to our patients and their care team. In simple words, we give our members their digital twin that provides them personalized insights so they can really reverse diseases like type 2 diabetes, obesity, prediabetes. And I lead engineering efforts for global clinic platform at Twin Health. And my team builds software for our member application and care team application to support member journey throughout member treatment throughout their journey.
Awesome, man. Sounds like you mentioned things are kind of growing real fast. And I mentioned, obviously, that we're talking about team velocity and quality, finding that balance. I think we'll kind of talk about the quality side first. I typically talk about the velocity side on previous episodes. And I think I'd like to touch on that with you because you do bring different industry experiences along the way. And I think a good spot maybe is to start off with what quality means to you, because I think it could mean a lot of different things to different people.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think both velocity and quality are very important for any startup, or in fact, I would say big company, because you are trying to penetrate the market, get more market share, and at the same time build the brand. So yes, to touch on quality, I think quality means very different for different industries. In my past, I've worked with enterprise customers, and then I worked for e-commerce, and now I'm in health tech. And I saw there is a shift in the terminology and the usage. Reason being, obviously, it's everyone as a member or as a customer want bug-free application. But with health and health tech, what I noticed is you have such a big responsibility that you're helping improve people's life or reverse certain diseases, that the scope of error becomes really low. I mean, people really need to trust you to use your application. And that's why I think quality gets baked into all the systems. So there is no velocity without quality. So, you have to really bake quality into the system. So that's where I want to start. And then you asked, what is the definition of quality? Again, I think we have different personas, member personas, and then you have internal stakeholders personas. So I think the quality you can define is how your product, your feature is used by other teams, by your stakeholders or your members, and in what capacity again. So if it's a good to have feature where you're doing some clinical automations, obviously you can cut corners sometimes, and you can have an MVP and then iterate following agile methodology and make it a gold standard. But yeah, if you're going somewhere where you're taking information on which you're going to run your models and suggest certain health metabolic information or treatment related information, you do not want to take chance there. You want to make sure everything is gold standard. You test it with a smaller audience, you validate it, and then only when you're sure, you actually go out and release it to a general release. That's how I define quality. I think it depends on what kind of work or feature family you're picking. And your mindset basically just switches. Okay, here it is we cannot take any chances, where there are few places you are open to take little bit risks.
Absolutely. I guess go back a step. You mentioned quality is baked in, and I think that's maybe a good follow-up question to that. And what does that mean exactly? Is that quality is baked into the system?
Yeah. So again, so at Twin, we do it what we try doing for my team and other teams as well. We made sure we shift quality left, and what that means is every time we commit to any work or we plan any work, we want to make sure we are delivering a quality product. And I know everyone does that, so there's no difference in that. But how we treat it differently is at the very early stage, we make sure our QA is involved in the process when we are doing any planning or grooming, so they understand the business use case and not just the functional side of it. We make sure we spend enough time to review all the test cases and test plans before, with the whole team, where developers knows what functional responsibilities they have, and then what responsibilities QA have to make sure there are no regressions. There are external impact or cascading impacts. And then once we have a feature built, we give them an early access to our feature sets by either a feature branch or like pushing it to a test server. So they can test thoroughly before it goes to our UAT or like even a smaller audience to test or like a GA. So these are few steps we take early to make sure everything that we are delivering is matching our quality standards. Then after that, what we do is we also try to track metrics like, sprint over sprint, month over month metrics of quality bug ratio. And we link it to their feature families, like also epics, we call it, so that we can see, okay, for this particular ticket or epics, we open these many bugs. And and these are some of the symptoms you can see, okay, why a particular feature family has so many bugs as compared to others. So it gives you a reflection of what you can do better going forward. But at the same time, you also have a control over if you made certain estimation for a certain time period, this feature will finish. You can see, okay, it's taking longer than we estimated it. And that's where it comes into velocity. So that's why I was saying we bake quality into the velocity or like all the other processes. And that's how we kind of handle it here. We also do something very different that I've noticed here at Twin, where obviously we have every pod has a certain number of resources. And other than actually estimating and figuring out like how much each pod works on, we kind of try to pick 4 to 5 story points each developer. And we have a 2-week sprint here. So what that means is 4 to 5 days of work. And then we kind of account for the next few days, each developer or everyone on the pod should invest in designing, understanding, and writing the test, improving the test coverage. And at the same time, doing all these refactoring or technical debt, people say, so we don't create any. That's why I meant bake quality into the system. So that's how we are doing it in my team at Twin.
Interesting. I guess when you have the developers, they're allocated their sprint points, they spend half of their week, half of the sprint essentially working on development. The other half, they're starting to shift their focus on that, the left shifting the quality, that, working maybe with the QA team or, on their own with those test cases. When you're looking at the speed, and I don't know if you have reference points from previous organizations to now, but when you're looking at the velocity of the team, obviously, they're maybe taking less development work at a time, but obviously they're producing the necessary quality that the organization needs. How does that, velocity compare, overall to other orgs you've seen, since you said it's kind of unique to what Twin's doing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I actually think we are delivering to same standards I've seen elsewhere. And it seems like, we're picking just one sprint, like 1 week of work in the sprint because it's 4 to 5 story points. Whereas traditionally what I've seen is people estimate and they see what is their velocity for the pod or team is. But the reason I'm saying it's equivalent or more work is a lot of times people don't really account for work that is not on Jira board. With such a fast growing company, you are interviewing almost every day or every other day. You are onboarding these new members. I remember when I joined my company, we are almost twice the workforce in engineering itself. So in last year itself, we doubled the number of people. So you have to bring them up to speed. And it's not just telling them the processes, but helping them understand the code base, giving them the domain background. Other than that, when you bring so many great minds, people bring their strengths and they're trying to build a lot of new stuff. But at the same time, you don't want to build 2 solutions for one problem. So manage all that. Code reviews get so much higher because, the frequency is so much now as compared to a lean team. So all these processes, they increase and no one actually put stories for this. And obviously you will not. So in a way, it works really well because, we kind of take a conscious change all these things take time and it's better to plan for it. And obviously, we are learning and getting better at estimation. Sometimes you can still estimate it wrong. Like, what's a 6-pointer could point at 4-pointer. So that's the art I think we're learning and everyone on the team is learning. But otherwise, I would say 4 to 5 story points is a very good, breakdown, I think, because that gives developers and everyone, in fact, on the team time to prepare for the following sprints, understand the domain and business value of features. And at the same time, sometimes we do not have, let's say, a design heavy sprint. And obviously, not everyone on the team will have design work. What gives them the flexibility is either to help other team members so that there is no silos. Second thing it helps with is people are sometimes interested in doing a certain kind of work, which you normally don't plan otherwise, in terms of business value. So you can pick these small filler stories and you actually either do not create tech debt or you do performance enhancement and basically are preparing for the scale. So it has worked really well so far. And I think it helps everyone on the team.
Interesting. I guess from the standpoint of, you mentioned obviously, spending a lot of time hiring. So when somebody comes in, to the process, they might be used to sprints where they're allocating most of their time to development work for 2 weeks because that's what they were trained to do. How much of a shift is that for someone coming in from the outside to adjust to, trying to find, more of a balance between the development and the QA and some of the other activities you mentioned?
Yeah, I think it is definitely a shift in the process and how people are used to, because like you said, people are spending a lot of time in their development. And I like to clarify that they're still doing a lot of development because all the design work, all the reviews, architecture work, framework work, it's still development. Mm-hmm. But I think what we're trying to do is we do not pick more than we can commit. So then we rush to deliver new things and we are leaving behind some low quality work. So in a way, we're still doing a lot of new development in both weeks. But in the second week, we are doing design work for the coming sprint. So the first day of the sprint, you exactly know what you want to build because you've done the investigation part. You've done some spikes or POCs that is needed, or you've picked up stories where, initially you did it for a smaller audience and now the feature is used by a much bigger population and needs some scalability or performance enhancements. So that's how we do it. And then for new members that join our company and team, we like to explain them what is the rationale behind it. And obviously, sometimes the second week for them is light in terms of work. And in that case, like I said, they can help either other team members who have picked much complex stories, or they can understand the other side of the business, whereas, you're working on just one feature family mostly. But in my pod, and I will explain what pod is later on, we have people working on 5 of 6 different feature families. So to do a very efficient code review, you need to understand what they're working on. So it gives them this opportunity to learn more than what just they're working on. And that's how we like to, put it out for new people who join our team.
It's an interesting onboarding process because obviously a lot of companies do onboarding differently. It's based on their dev process and how teams are set up. But it sounds like it's a very good way to introduce somebody to the process, which could be a little bit different. Obviously, within healthcare is even yet different if you've not worked in healthcare, and also get them up to speed. Yeah, you were going to mention, you were going to explain how the pods are kind of structured. I was kind of curious what that was.
Oh, yeah. So thanks for asking that. So actually, it's still a team, but we call it a pod because, at Twin, we have self-sufficient team. And what that means is each team has platform developers, so full stack, backend or front end, both basically. And then we have mobile developers. And then we have QA and product managers to support this. And collectively, we call it a pod. So in a way, if we get a feature request, then our team is self-sufficient, autonomous to kind of deliver it across platforms, iOS, Android, and web platforms. And that's what I was saying. It is actually breadth and depth of work and knowledge so that other people really have a lot of stuff to learn from and contribute, understand the whole workflow and life cycle of a product. So that's why I think that little bit breathing room in the second week helps because they understand how from member persona feature is used versus from clinical personas. And if there are any gaps, you learn as you grow and move further in the journey. So that's where a pod helps because we have all the people that you need. We still have a lot of cross-functional projects. I'm not saying that, but that is not because we don't have the skill set in the team. It is because, some other pod has some other responsibility. And a lot of times, you are working together to make sure each pod is performing and delivering what is required from them. And mine being a global clinical platform, we normally build features that are used by other teams as well. And then they do localization on top of it. So there is a very close collaboration between different pods and engineers and at each level. So that's also amazing with, I think, startups, because new people are joining and they want to understand what has been built. And then also at the same time, you want to build so much new stuff that, if you're interested in something, I bet you'll find that kind of work in a startup. So that's the most amazing part.
Awesome. That sounds really interesting. I was going to ask, what kind of metrics are you guys tracking? Just maybe the ones that tie into quality, maybe even reflecting velocity, because obviously you're trying to balance the both of those.
Right. So so I'll start with velocity. What we do for velocity is at the start of quarter, we obviously do some high level estimations based on per person sprint, and we do this small, large, medium buckets of feature families. And because we know how many developers each pod has, and we only try to pick 4 to 5 story points per sprint, we kind of have a set standard how much a pod can deliver. So we start there and we divided each quarter into first half, second half. So we have different feature families, stacked order in priority. And then what I like to do, because I call it fillers also as it helps, we always define some stretch goals, which is more around technology enhancements. And we see, okay, based on this bandwidth, we can deliver this. And then it goes to this one deeper level where, if the team reviews the requirement, we go story points, everything. And majority of the time is close to the guesstimate we've made before because leads are involved earlier in the process. And then we ensure not every sprint, but definitely first half or second half of the quarter, and sometimes 2 sprints or 3 sprints to ensure we are delivering on the commits we made initially in the beginning of the quarter. So to track our qualities, our velocities on track, and we are not far behind, or if we need to shift focus, that's where other people can maybe help close it if we are, lagging in certain deliverables we committed. So that's one way of looking at the velocity holistic view. We also look at the story points, okay, we picked up these many story points and did we complete it? But it's not the holistic view for me, because you could be picking a lot of bug points, and these bugs are linked to the previous stories you delivered. So there is not always net new addition that you get out of story points. That's where this feature families, how much progress you made in each feature family helps me. So yeah, that's what we do for velocity. And for quality, like I mentioned before, also we follow sprint over sprint, month over month, metric to see how many bugs were opened in each feature family to each ticket. And then we take a step back and try to tweak the process where how we can reduce it. And shifting QA also actually, sometimes creates more bugs. Reason being, you're not familiar with the process of testing something early. Because let's say I develop something and it's still not done, I'm still in the code process, and I ask my QA to verify it, they could open bugs. But the intention there is we are still going to do functional testing and we're still going to merge it. So there is time in between, but we want you to take an early access to this feature and call out any external, impacts that, someone, maybe a developer did not consider. So again, change of how team works. And then we're trying to now make sure in sprint, if we find any issues, we try to open the ticket back and they work closely. It's not a race to open more tickets. It's mostly to make sure whatever is delivered is gold standard.
Interesting. I was going to ask you, I know you guys are growing, and obviously the team's going to have to scale, and, it seems like this is a good process. It fits the team. At what point do you think will you have to kind of examine, this process, the structure, the way the team's working to, at a certain size scale? Do you think you'll maybe it'll work. Maybe doubling, tripling the engineering team, the processes is going to work fine. But I guess at some point you might need to sit down and look and see how effective the methodology still is. I mean, when do you start looking at that stuff?
Yes. So it is a very good question. And I don't have the right answer for it. But one thing I know that happens in every startup is that change is constant. So it's not like, we started with this terminology. We also initially had just teams and different teams had different skill sets. And we saw, okay, with the pod structure, we'll be more successful. So we went to that. And then at some point, like you said, we'll be such a big pod that it's makes sense to maybe break it into multiple pods. So obviously there are changes that you pick as, companies grow. And I think we are at a point where I'm also trying to make sure all my engineers and in fact, I think at the company level, we're trying to make sure also have a very good knowledge of products. So we are product champions and we can give the right feedback when we start working on something. So you have to manage this balance where it's not too many processes, but you also have to make sure that it's not just heads down work. You want to find this sweet balance. And at this time, I think we're taking case by case. Right now, our pod sizes are from 7 to 9 developers max. And I think once it gets a little above, I think that's where you break it, because you don't want developers also spend too much time on just reviewing work that is not related to them, or just reviewing code that is way off their work stream or expertise. So that's where I think you take these decisions. Mm-hmm. And you have symptoms that clearly show it, how the velocity is going down, or you see a lot of PR still in the process, staying there for longer than it has to be. Quality is a little bit compromised. So if you track these symptoms early, I think that's the right time to take a step back and actually either break the pods or think, what else? What is the next evolution of this?
I like that. You actually just gave me an idea for a topic for hopefully a future episode, or maybe a panel, symptoms for identifying velocity slowing down. I think that'd be really interesting. I guess what's really interesting when I talk to I have a lot of engineering managers on, and we talk about the forward vision, and it's so much more art than science, because there's so many things to balance, so many unknowns. And I think as you kind of go off map, when you got to a certain scale, it's almost like you have to be a little reactive, because if you're too proactive, you might be making adjustments that are just not needed and making adjustments for unanticipated root cause problems. So I think it's interesting. I think your view is really, been really awesome, hearing how you've built the team and how the team's functioning. I think it seems like it kind of fits with what a dynamic startup should be doing.
Yeah, and you were spot on with the root cause. I think that's where I was going. I think if you understand the symptoms early, you can basically solve the root cause and not just the problems. And the beauty is at Twin, we are actually solving the root cause for chronic diseases, right? So why not apply that in engineering if we can? And I think that works so well if you really fix the problem, underneath problem. And then that also brings the best out of, team culture, moods, and, everyone really enjoys working. So that is also very important.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think a lot of people, when you change something, they want to really understand why it's being changed. They want to tangibly know. And if you're making a change because it's anticipated, then sometimes the question is, well, it's not broken, why are we doing this? And I think it's interesting because when people are on board and they're a part of that change, it gets adopted by the team and it becomes absorbed in their process much faster, I think.
Yeah. So like I said, I think everyone's getting familiar to change now. And like I said, change is becoming constant. So we don't see so much pushback now like you used to when actually people moved from waterfall to Scrum and it was like everyday stand-up. Because the industry kind of accepted it, I think it's not that much pushback. But obviously to be successful and in such a dynamic, or early days of a startup when nothing is so concrete, you have to take actions where, you have to change based on business needs. Because I remember when I joined Twin, I had just a 2-people team. And then I was working so closely with my developers on so deeper issues. And now, like I'm saying, I have 9 developers. So it changed just in a few months. And you have to make sure you also adjust the processes around. You give others more autonomy, more responsibility so they can grow and shine in their areas. And that is actually also a change, if you understand. So, and people I think, like this change, and that's why they come to startups, because they have so much autonomy. They get to wear so many hats. I mean, that's why I joined Twin Health. I was before at a company that was also hyper growth or like fast growing. And I saw when I was joining Twin, we were at that inflection point where we were coming out of stealth. We proved our technology work. And now we were just going to expand and market penetrate and like go to market more openly. So I think you learn from your experiences, and this is the best time because you can make so much impact, but you have to make sure it's a conscious change, and whatever you're doing will set you for success in future. And if everyone's on the same page, and I know everyone brings good intention, it will work.
Awesome, man. I love it. It's a great discussion. I know we kind of focused a little bit more on the quality side of the velocity quality topic, but I think we touched on the velocity. I think it was a good, well-rounded discussion. I appreciate your time. If somebody wants to reach out to you to pick your brain on anything you mentioned, what's a good way of getting a hold of you? Is LinkedIn, Twitter? What's your preferred way?
Yeah, LinkedIn is best. I use LinkedIn all the time. So feel free to just ping me there, add me as a connection, and happy to discuss more there.
Awesome. We'll make sure that's in the show notes. Again, thanks for being on. That's it for this episode. We'll be back again, different guest, different topic. Until then, I always ask for two things. One, if you want me to talk about a specific topic, hit me up on LinkedIn. Let me know. I'll do my best to find someone to address it. Secondly, thank you always for sharing the podcast. That's how we've grown. And it's exciting to see the fact that that's how the organic growth has been flowing. So keep sharing it. Appreciate that. And until next time, goodbye.